Life finds a way, you know.
Life finds a way, god damn it.
Welcome to the Fully Clap, the Jurassic Park sequels episode.
Yeah, different year, different shit.
An episode 3.1 million seconds in the making. I checked. I checked.
I hate you so much for making that joke.
You were adamant for me not making the joke in the last Jurassic Park, so I had to do something about it.
I was hoping I put my hope on the fact that since we avoided the joke on the first time, it wouldn't creep back into the episodes. Well, here I am, prove me wrong.
This is Karri Ojala. My co-host is Henrik Telkki.
Who is so fed up with this shit and way too jaded, which is in keeping with as you mentioned today's theme, which is the Jurassic Park sequels. Also, films and a franchise that is kind of really fed up with its own shit.
I'm not sure how many Finnish people actually do film podcasts or podcasts in English. That's what we try to do here.
Once too many, I bet, if you ask from the international audiences. The horrible Finnish rally accent, which always creeps into when Finns speak in English.
I went through a course of British accent before kind of test driving which rally version should I go for. Rally American or rally British. Let's just stick with what works, at least to an extent.
Somewhere in the listener feedback, most definitely you have heard, you have gotten the suggestion that I should do something from my ran over rotten weasel corpse nascally voice and try to do some kind of a British accent. I can guarantee you, I can assure you that would be a horrible mistake and it wouldn't work at all. I don't know. Maybe someday I can go full. Oh, what you saying, mate?
Not bad, actually. Yeah, we are a podcast that does not break down accents, but international cinema every week. And I studied media. I'm a media studies graduate. Henrik went more fancy his studies now in the University of Lapland. Lapland is a region partially located in northern Finland, if you didn't know. And Henrik's title is gonna be Master of Arts.
Someday, hopefully, unless the alcoholism takes me.
How was Henrik's time off from the lab for over a month? This is the longest break that we have ever taken here.
And I must confess, I did jack shit concerning this podcast during my break. The utmost I did was I did watch the films for tonight and did some background research. But other than that, I completely forgot that I'm even doing a film podcast.
I try to do the same. But so, what are we gonna talk about today, Henrik?
Today we are gonna talk about, as you already mentioned, we are gonna talk about the rest of the Jurassic Park films up until to this date. That means 4 movies in total. This is a listener recommendation, long overdue. We like ages ago we got a listener asked us to go through the Jurassic Park films as in plural, and we did the first one, and we considered doing the second one, and then we realized that that's the second Jurassic Park film, and then we just postponed it up until this date when we decided that now, returning from the Christmas break, we are trying to do a bit of a new type of format here on the podcast. And this is kind of our first try to kind of liven up the way how we do these episodes and the way how we talk about films.
Yeah, and is it gonna be 4 or 5 films actually? Did you check out the Battle at Big Rock?
I did, but I don't really count that as a film because that's 8 minutes short.
Yeah, but I guess we can talk about it a little bit.
We can talk about it a little bit. There really is not that much to talk about.
Yeah.
And, speaking of Battle of Big Rock and little to talk about, that's actually kind of a fitting theme for today's episode. It turned out I haven't checked out the Jurassic Park films, these sequels, for quite some time now. Like I checked 2 and 3 like several years ago, and I've only once before seen the 2 Lost World films, that being the times when they came out in cinemas. So there's a long gap between the Jurassic Park sequels and with me. And now that I've checked them out again, I must say that Jurassic Park sequels are perhaps a prime example, like a really good opportunity for us to stretch the new podcast episode formula where we talk about several films in one episode, because by god damn help me, there is not enough material in Jurassic Park sequels to merit 4 independent episodes. This fucking franchise, like spoilers for the entire franchise. If you have seen the first 2 Jurassic Park films, you pretty much seen the entire franchise. If you've seen the first 3 Jurassic Park films, you most definitely have seen the entire franchise, because Jurassic Park, as it turns out, it's a film franchise that has 5 films, one basic premise: people go to Dinosaur Island, and from that basic premise, it can manage 3 different plot lines. And if at this point you are kind of going, wait a minute, like how does one math 5 films and 3 stories? How does that work? Well, it turns out it really fucking don't.
You're being generous. 3. Okay, let's find out and dig deep.
Yeah, let's. I'm like I admit already, I'm being generous.
Because this is talking about all of the sequels, I thought it could be a good idea to still slightly revisit the first Jurassic Park. So we could talk about what the first one did better, or what worked there and hasn't worked since.
Well, essentially everything worked better in the first one.
Yeah, the original, of course, it's been kind of a childhood fascination for many of us, and you could say that it has changed a lot of people's views, perhaps, towards cinema. Or it was such of a huge event back in 1993, and it was the most successful movie up to that point.
Yeah, it was a phenomenon when it came out.
Yeah,
Like it was a major thing. You couldn't run away from Jurassic Park even if you tried. When it originally came out, the hype machine was really extraordinary everywhere. Also, even in Finland, in basically every publication that existed in Finland, some form of Jurassic Park hype was going on. And when the film came out, the hype machine was still going strong. There were news reports how Jurassic Park broke all the records. And even after it was done, like after it had left the theaters, Jurassic Park was still phenomenal. Like the impact that Jurassic Park had, at least in Finland, in the pop culture discourse back in the day, it's something that I feel has not really ever given high enough praise, because it really
mm.
was something. It was a major topic in Finland also, the whole Jurassic Park thing, and it remained as one.
We're talking about a film that is something that came out only 2 years after the Terminator 2, which was a milestone in CGI, or computer generated imagery. And here we are, and what does Steven Spielberg do? He takes dinosaurs back to life for people. We're not talking about any kind of a small. This was huge, huge. Everybody flocked to see this, and it generated over $1 billion. in box
Yeah,
office.
and since you said, like you said it, it's a film that also brought the dinosaurs back to people,
Yeah,
and it really did that. Like the dinosaur boom was revitalized by Jurassic Park alone. And all of a sudden, BBC and everybody is making dinosaur documentaries, and David Attenborough is talking about dinosaurs and you name it. Like even thanks to Jurassic Park, even the goddamn dinosaurs once became a gigantic thing.
yeah, and not only the CGI is phenomenal here for its time and still holds up incredibly well thanks to the high brain power of Steven Spielberg, you could say. But not only that, it has real balanced characters, I find. Because the constant issue that I find with the sequels is finding real balanced characters and not the most morally bankrupt versus the kind of the flawless leads. For example, Chris Pratt's character in Jurassic Worlds. Here we have a lot of character building, and really quickly. Not that all of their character arcs would necessarily lead to anywhere, but there is enough elements going on that it makes the viewing experience interesting. There's the John Hammond, who is the computer age spirited guy. We can, so we should, and tries to control life. He keeps having this phrase spared no expense, yet nothing can keep the zoo contained. Quite accurate, in fact. We see this even in the regular zoos. Animals do escape. And spared no expense here later serves as kind of the ironic moment of realization of what he had done wrong. Then we have Dr. Malcolm, whose message is essentially about his chaos theory, because he's a chaos theorist. Loves kids, whereas Dr. Grant, not so much, at least in the beginning. And Dr. Malcolm is the kind of opposing force and builds the seed of distrust to this park for the rest of them. He also says that it's kind of the rape of the natural world that they have created these dinosaurs, which might be a bit of a stretch, to be fair, that the humans have long been raping the natural world, but this chaos theory holds up, and Dr. Grant is also reserved towards the park, but more open to the idea than Malcolm initially, and hates kids as well as computers. So he's kind of the old world. It's kind of stemming from Michael Crichton, obviously, because this film is based on Michael Crichton's book. Michael Crichton agreed that the computers are a two-edged sword, since there's a lot of technical possibilities, but then they are kind of making things infinitely more complicated. So we have quite solid characters. We have a solid execution of the practical plus the CGI effects. And we keep things real with this kind of a delicate balance. The original Jurassic Park has only 5 to 6 minutes of CGI in total. That's quite impressive and understandable when you see how long it took to render those digitized frames back in the day. CGI dinos, they are interacting and affecting the real world, which I find is a huge thing that Spielberg could understand back in the day. Maybe less now when you look at something like Ready Player One, but here it was, for one, it was necessary to do because of the lack of the sophisticated CGI, and also it just makes it more real. And the characters are reacting to dinos, which is important when you have the Stan Winston apparatuses running around. Showing scale is important. Scaling, for example, the jeeps in the same frame with the Tyrannosaurus Rex leaving his cage, her cage actually, or whichever the case it is actually, with this amphibian DNA. There's claustrophobia in all of them, but it's working the best in the first two parts. Horror, and quite clearly defined areas. We've talked about clearly defined areas in the Halloween franchise, where we found that perhaps it works the best in the first one. Yeah, those are pretty isolated and small areas where we are. It's kind of the same here. You have the roadside, we spend a lot of time there, and action happens there. It's not all bombastic and chaotic in, like, say, Fallen Kingdom. Perhaps we can talk about the CGI in the series overall at this point, where Jurassic Park, it's a smart execution, as we discussed already, of the practical and CGI. Jurassic Park 3 differs here because, from what I can see, is that they have used less of the practical equipment, or where they have used it, it's not the actual animatronics on the screen, it's something that has been replaced by CGI. The dinos in the Jurassic Park 3, they look a little bit too lively, and the environment, I don't know if it's so affected as in the first one. Also, the lighting seems to be a bit poor in a way that the dinos don't blend to the environment as well. Maybe they should be kept more in the shadow, as you often do with your antagonist. There's weird colors. By the riverside, you see these. I believe they are brachiosauruses, and they have a lot of colors. There's a weird replacement of colors in the dinos in this film. Too many colors. The herbivores are the worst looking by the river, I have to say. The hair is not moving anymore when the raptor is breathing on your face. Not in the same way. This kind of interaction is missing, I find.
Yeah, there's a lot of really weird stuff that happens in, or there's a really weird kind of mistakes and attitudes in Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah, Joe Johnston, the director of Jurassic Park 3, he is friends with Steven Spielberg. There was this kind of some kind of handshake that Spielberg wanted to do the second, but if there would ever be a third one, then Spielberg was okay for Joe Johnston to direct it. For some reason, we have less and less of the practical on screen. When it comes to Jurassic World and the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, well, worst animation directing in the franchise. It's extremely lively, too lively. It looks like a video game now. The characters are too reactive. The dinosaurs are reacting to every single goddamn thing that the humans do. And the raptors smashing through car windows like nothing. They're too aggressive. We have seen this before, but this kind of it's insane. It's a video game at this point, and then you look at, for example, the air that is flowing in front of the dinosaurs. For example, in the final fight between the genetically modified and the Tyrannosaurus Rex. It seems that the air is kind of hot. There's this kind of air effect. You look at the end credits, and there's 10 plus different companies doing the visual effects. Overkill.
Yeah, perhaps it's, for me it's really hard to take a stance when it comes to exactly what it is that the Jurassic Park sequels do wrong when it comes to the visual presentation. Something that I kind of that caught my eye, and I do differ on from your opinion that the characters are too reactive. The dinosaurs, I actually think that they react way too little. They are way too stoic, especially in Jurassic World films, compared to the idea that they are supposed to see these larger than life dinosaurs. But something that I did pay attention to is that when it comes to the original and when it comes to the sequels, especially the Jurassic World films, the aspect ratio of the image changes. Jurassic Park, the first one was, if I'm correct, it was shot on 185 to
Yeah.
1, and the Jurassic Worlds look like 235 to 1,
Mm.
or CinemaScope aspect ratio. And even though I can kind of understand why they changed the aspect ratio to Jurassic World films, the CinemaScope does give you it does make the tight shots more tighter, and it does perhaps give you better lateral movement. But at the same time, it means that you lose something like 25% on the vertical space on every single frame, which will limit exactly how much dino you can actually put into a frame of a film. And I would maintain that you actually see the damage done in the way how Jurassic World movies are being shot. Like there's a hell of a lot of sequences where when it comes to the human characters, all the shots are medium shots at the eye level. And when it comes to the scenes where you are supposed to see the dinosaurs are constantly, or the image is constantly being cluttered by well other crap. In the first one, whenever there was supposed to be these eye candy shots of the dinos, the image and the background, everything was pretty clean. There's an open field, open plain, and you have a blue sky, and the dinosaur is against the sky, or something other pretty barren and pretty clean environment. But with Jurassic World, you can have a giant ass dinosaur walking past the image, and at the same image you have a building on the background, and you have a jeep on the front, and you have a whole bunch of people standing next to the jeep in front of the dino, and there's just like this over excess of visual elements in a shot that's supposed to be focusing on exactly how big and majestic the dinosaur in the frame is.
I find that the problem that you describe with a lot of crap in the image is more a stylistic, artistic decision, and I could never quite understand what is the big fuss about using 235 shooting Jurassic Parks, because at the end of the day, what you do in the image, it's up to your technical choices, what kind of lenses you use or how you frame your image. What do you want to have essentially in your image? For example, Steven Spielberg said about the first one that he wanted to have, for one reason, 185 aspect ratio so that he could have this iconic Brachiosaurus shot when we see a dinosaur for the first time in the film, basically. And that it couldn't be accomplished in 235. I don't know. You don't really miss a thing. You just kind of add more things on the sides. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I can see where you're coming from, and perhaps you are correct. Maybe it's not the aspect ratio itself. Maybe it's not even the stylistic choice itself. But something happens because Jurassic World, at least Fallen Kingdom, it tries to copy that Brachiosaurus shot from the first one. Of course, visually wise, there are two different types of shot, but basically, what the shot is supposed to mean, it essentially it's the similar situation in both films, and somehow Fallen Kingdom manages completely fuck it up.
Mm-hmm. It fucks up a lot of things.
It does.
Let's discuss a bit what connects all of the Jurassic Park movies. Well, there's dinosaurs in them. And they're adventure movies, I could say that. And gargantuan budgets. What else? What connects all the sequels? Well, those are connected by human greed. And I would say lazily written characters.
I would say that the bigger question that we have to ask is what actually differentiates the Jurassic Park films from each other.
Okay. Do you have something ready for that?
Yeah, I actually do.
Go ahead.
Fucking nothing. Really. Like of course, there are some differences, but the fact is, like the brutal fact is that almost every film in the franchise is some kind of a remake of a films that came before. As I mentioned, I find, and I'm being generous here, I find three different narratives or three different plot lines
Yeah.
truly in five films. And when it comes to things like theme, or characters or anything that you would think that a movie would like to say, because movies are supposed to be saying something, they're supposed to be about something or trying to do something. I found that, well, essentially Jurassic Park films, they are just recycling themes and concepts from the first film. Every single fucking one of them. That there's always the life finds a way argument that gets brought in all of these films. There's always the human greed element. That there's always the maybe we shouldn't have cloned the dinosaurs that were extinct back to life. Maybe we shouldn't try to capitalize on dinos.
Maybe we shouldn't go to this island where already several people died.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's to a level where I would argue that the films even copy their storylines, their plot structure.
Yeah, and
On they like oh, when it's most grievous, it's almost beat for beat carbon copies of a previous films. This is my main gripe with the Lost World films, where Lost World 1 is at its worst, it's beat for beat Jurassic Park 1. And Fallen Kingdom at its worst is beat for beat Jurassic Park 2.
yeah, you can definitely see the similarities. There's gonna be a stupid ass rescue mission in the Lost World and Fallen Kingdom. And what the first Jurassic World does is essentially what the first Jurassic Park movie does. Well, now it has an operational park, that's kind of the big difference in a sense, but plot wise, what do we have? Well, we have people who are placed on the island again because everything should be fine and working. We have these two kids, which in this film, particularly in Jurassic World, serve no narrative purpose except that kids are kid friendly, I guess.
Yeah, and somebody is supposed to find the grand lesson that kids are okay.
Oh, and then there is this completely pointless subplot about the parents getting divorced, which has been taken from the Jurassic Park book. It's just basically Lex and Tim all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the kids have been taken to the island so that they can have a fun little weekend or a few days. And so the parents can concern themselves more about this heavy breaking up.
Yeah, and also the whole point of there being a child who has two parental figures who has a strained relationship, that's also kinda what Jurassic Park 2 is doing
Mm,
with Ian Malcolm and what was Julianne Moore's character. But the same dynamic. Mommy and dad are they are going through a tight situation in the relationship, and there's a kid in the middle.
and this reminds me of other kind of weird connections. We already saw in Jurassic Park that Dr. Grant is the person who doesn't particularly like kids in the beginning of the film, but then he has a character arc and then he suddenly loves kids and is ready to make a family, I guess, with Ellie, but then that all is dropped completely in Jurassic Park 3 in a weird plot where Ellie has married. But why? Why? They could have been even together. That could have been even a kind of a stronger connection why they are in the film in the first place. Then there is this lucky bag thing. I suppose nothing else than kind of a lazy writing. We have a lucky bag in the Lost World with Julianne Moore's character. Then we have a lucky bag with Bill, Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah. Most grievously, as you mentioned, there is the like every film on the franchise carries with it the idea that the nuclear family is something wholesome, and there's some kind of a glory to the concept of nuclear family itself. Outside of Jurassic Park 3, which does have this to a point. Well, actually, well, fuck it. Jurassic Park 3 does this also. But there's this whole notion that you are somehow broken if you don't want the nuclear family. And at least one character has to go through the arc where he or she finds the joyousness of nuclear family. Like Grant in the original is really like, I don't want to have a kids. And the whole character arc is that Grant finds out that kids are pretty okay. And maybe I too can have kids and have a nuclear family. Then the whole main argument between Julianne Moore and Malcolm in Lost World what centers around parentage, and the plotline they share together essentially is fixated on them renewing their concept of nuclear family and coming together once again around their some kind of adopted daughter. The Jurassic Park 3 has once again the quarreling couple who have the rescue mission to find their lost son, and in course of the mission they renew the nuclear family. And then both Lost Worlds or Jurassic Worlds, both of them at the end up with Chris Pratt and what is the lady kind of a coming together, that the lady kind of finds out that in both films that kids are pretty okay and maybe have a nuclear family. It's like you just can't have a character in Jurassic Park films who would start and end the film with the idea, yeah, I don't want to have kids.
Life finds a way, you know.
Life finds a way, god damn it.
It was one of us that made the point in the Jurassic Park 1 episode that this has been somehow attributed to the fact that Steven Spielberg is a Jew. I understand that this is very much a Jewish thing to care about family, and it seems to resonate with Spielberg, and because we seem to time and time again go to these same plot points because of, I suppose, money, then we just keep rehashing this theme.
I think it's also extremely American thing, and that can't be overlooked when dealing with, well, what is a major blockbuster Hollywood product, to say it bluntly. Americans have a really high notion of a certain type of family unit: man, woman, one or two kids. The whole concept of the blasted nuclear family. And no, America isn't the only country in the world where family units have a strong bond between each other, and where you can really care for your kid or your parents. But America has one type of family, and in my opinion, it almost even fetishizes that one notion of family, and basically everything that goes against it somehow is automatically deemed wrong or incorrect. This is I would say this is the main reason why I myself have perceived that Americans have such a hard time with concepts like single parenthood, same-sex couples, you not even wanting to have a kid. Like women are often seen somehow mentally broken or something like that if they don't want to have a child. And I would make the argument that all of this is stemming from this some kind of a almost perverse notion that there's something grandiose, like larger than life, something almost godlike in the concept of a nuclear family.
Well, I mean, in that case, if the children and the nuclear family, as you put it, is so important to America, maybe they should kind of hurry up with the plot points and update them in a way where gay couples would have more children. I mean, that would be the key, right?
Is this not nuclear?
Hmm.
Where is woman in gay marriage?
They have already dinosaurs that can change their sex on the fly. I mean, that was back in 1993.
Yeah, and that's as far as presentations of any kind of a theme of a sexual orientation outside of heterosexuality is present in Jurassic Park films,
Mm.
which is fucking whack when you ask me.
Looking for that cloned John Hammond who can have amphibian DNA and change his sex on the fly. But talking about the science, there's a couple of things that are, you could say, slightly off. We have already talked about the DNA part in a way that, well, bringing back dinosaurs to life like this doesn't seem to exactly work because dinosaurs have been extinct for more or less 65 million years, and the DNA is a very volatile and breaks up really easily by nature and is able to, according to some estimates, last for maybe hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years in that kind of a scale. And I don't know if this is a past understanding of T Rex's vision, as Dr. Alan Grant notes in the first one, and in the third one, and in the second one by Malcolm, pretty much by looking at his behavior, is that the T Rex vision is based on movement. So this doesn't seem to hold water according to the at least the latest research, which says that Tyrannosaurus rexes apparently might have had even up to 13 times better vision than humans, whatever that means. One thing that has to baffle me plot-wise here is the whole Doctor Wu. So we have this DNA that is blended with the frog DNA, which enables the Tyrannosaurs and other dinosaurs to change sex on the fly. So what kind of a scientist mixes this type of frogs with dinos if you want to keep them female? Like, the thought never occurred to them that something like this might happen, because even one small change in the DNA chain that could bring huge differences. And this brings me to the theory that Dr. Wu is actually a practical joker, because he always had planned it so that the dinosaurs would have flaws and ways to find their way out. That's my theory, and he still gets to collect the paycheck and say something like, "Well, that's what you asked for." He's like the evil genie.
The real thing with when it comes to the science in Jurassic Park is you are not supposed to think it too much.
Oh,
Like you're supposed to kind of have this surface level acceptance. There's science bubble, and you're just supposed to take it and go with it. Like if you really start to dissect how science and scientific thinking in Jurassic Park films works, you pretty soon find out that it doesn't work at all.
however, if you're gonna take into the equation what Doctor Wu does, for example, in Fallen Kingdom, where he has this few minutes of talk with this, is it an investor, and Doctor Wu just says that, well, I did exactly what you asked for, and these are not exactly easy things, blah blah blah. And knowing all of that, Doctor Wu creates more dinosaurs, this time specifically, definitely genetically modified for the park's needs, and does the same shit show all over again, and dinos break out. It's not my fault, it's your fault. You asked for it.
The thing with the thing with character motivations in Jurassic Park films is that you're not supposed to think them too much. You're kind of supposed to have this surface level acceptance where they present to you a character motivation and you just take it and go with it.
I'm just saying that since I'm a film podcaster and I dive deep every once in a while, this doesn't hold much water.
God damn it, God damn it. When it comes to science, do you want to hear something really funny?
Yeah?
When it comes to the scientific accuracies in Jurassic Park, the first one, there's a whole notion how they get the DNA from the mosquito. That's the whole linchpin of how they make the dinosaurs. Well, according to the latest science, the type of mosquito that they use in the film is the only species of mosquitoes that does not suck blood. That's where we are in the science department. And when it comes to the character motivations, Jurassic World 1 introduces us the investor who has put like hundreds of billions and zillions of dollars to make a Jurassic Park theme park finally operate, and who has like hyper expensive clothing programs where they design new dinosaurs. And that person does not know what type of dinosaurs are being designed on his dime. He's completely oblivious when it comes to what exactly is Indominus Rex.
Well,
So that's the character motivations. None of it works. None of it makes any sense.
a lot of things don't make sense in Jurassic World sequels, especially the Indominus Rex, which is the centerpiece of Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom, I would say. For sure, for the first Jurassic World. The absolute pointlessness of the Indominus Rex. First of all, I do not understand in any way the fascination with bringing and creating in a lab some tyrannosauruses or dinosaurs. That the fascination with Jurassic Park from the day one for me has been that they are making dinos as realistic or as similar to the original counterpart as possible. That's the wow factor here. So, how exactly do you wow the audience by creating a dinosaur that never even existed? I truly don't get it. Like, I never cared at all for these genetically invented dino species. I can't fathom why anyone else would either, why they use them as the center. It's already bad enough that they have flaws in the original animals due to the DNA gaps. So it's like, well, Velociraptor is not exactly a Velociraptor, but that's because they used a different dino as a model in the first one, and then they kind of stuck with it. Like, these are too big, and these are not Velociraptors, but let's call them Velociraptors.
Do you want to know why that is?
Yes,
Or,
please.
or this is at least my theory. It's because, and this is once again coming back to the whole point how every film just rehashes stuff from the first and second film. The thing with Jurassic Park, well, the whole concept, the whole franchise is that there really is not that much stuff in Jurassic Park that you can do or you can utilize. Jurassic Park, on a surface level, it sounds like really magical concept where there's all these possibilities, like endless opportunities to do sequels and franchises and kids cartoon shows
Yeah,
and you name it, you name it.
yeah.
But in the end, there really is not. Like the concept of Jurassic Park holds together for one film. There's enough material for one grandiose movie, but there's not enough like stuff.
Well, I don't
Not in the basic concept for a franchise.
I don't even know. What fascinates me to no end is that basically all of these films are the same film, and in my opinion, there could be a lot of things that you could do with the dinosaurs. What really fascinates me further is that now that we're getting to Jurassic World Dominion, the third part in the Jurassic World franchise or series, and the sixth film in the overall franchise, is that it's only now that they have figured that, well, let's bring the dinosaurs to the mainland. I mean, this is something that I was thinking that they could go with already, like, second part, which they did, but then they take all of the samples back, or the assets, as they love to say. But in part three, you could have already done that, but you keep taking people onto this island. Why?
And because that's one of the founding ideas of Jurassic Park. I mean, fucking Dominion either. If it's anything like Battle at the Big Rock, the Dominion either isn't doing anything new or special. Not really when you look at it. The whole idea behind like the rehashed idea behind every single Jurassic Park film is that there is a place, closed off place, controlled, limited environment where there's dinos and people go to dino place. And as much a fluff as Dominion wants to make about how the dinos now are on mainland. And I fucking called this one when the originally saw Jurassic Fallen Kingdom, the ending of Fallen Kingdom, and I saw that the dinos are getting onto the mainland. But I made a guess that what ends up happening is that the dinos take over a national park or some such, which once again is a specific, closed-off, foresty location where people have to go. Like people go to national parks. It's Dominion's basic idea. If it is anything like Battle at Big Rock, which also takes place on a goddamn national park, it's nothing new. It's nothing exceptional. It's once again, it's the same fucking shit. Once again, there's a limited close-off foresty space where the dinos are, and people have to go to Dino Place for the adventure to happen.
Yeah.
It's like the franchise, it just can't re-innovate. You also see this in the antagonist dinosaurs. Can you name how many different types of dinosaurs there are as bad guys in 5 films?
Oh, well,
2.
there's what, 2, yeah.
2. You have T-Rex and you have Velociraptor.
And this Indominus nonsense.
Indominus is essentially T-Rex.
Well,
There's some fluff about genetic makeup, like it talks raptor and it can turn invisible or some shit like that. But it's a T-Rex. Visually, it's a T-Rex. On behavior wise, it's T-Rex. The back fin dinosaur in the crocodile looking motherfucker in Jurassic Park 3, T-Rex. The Indoraptor. That's a velociraptor with a teeth job. A bigger and different types of teeth. But it's a velociraptor. There really isn't like the franchise is also rehashing its dinosaurs. You have like a handful of different dinosaurs, and they could just keep being brought back time after time after time again.
Yeah, and when it comes to repetition in the franchise, they're repeating a lot of things, but one of the things that they do not necessarily do since part 3 is to bring T-Rex to the place of the actual bad dinosaur, the antagonist dinosaur. Why do you have to replace it time and time again with less interesting dinosaurs? In Jurassic Park 3, T-Rex is taken as some kind of a side character, like, hello, I'm here to have a small battle and then fuck off for the rest of the movie. Jurassic World, you have to have something genetic made in the lab, and no one cares.
This once again, this goes into copying the theme.
Yeah, but
of the first film.
I would like to point out something that Chris Pratt says more or less in Jurassic World. Something referencing the fact that who's gonna care about this new dinosaur? Yeah, exactly. Just stick to the T-Rex.
Well, but the films are actually sticking to the T-Rex. They are sticking to the main idea of the T-Rex. In the first film, the T-Rex originally starts as an antagonist of the film. T-Rex tries to eat the kiddies because it's a dumb animal, and figures out that something like 12-year-old really is enough food or some shit. But anyways, T-Rex bad. Originally in the first one, but in course of the film, the whole T-Rex. Well, first of all, it gets fuck off from the film. The Velociraptors actually are more of the bad guys or the antagonists of the original. And then on the final moment, T-Rex comes back, this time as some sort of a karmatic avenger or justicar, as some form of an entity of a justice happening, karmatic justice. Like T-Rex in the end appears at the end of the film to quote unquote punish the bad ones. The first film famously ends with the moment when the main heroes have been trying to escape from velociraptors for God knows how long, and the velociraptors finally get the heroes cornered. Velociraptors are the bad guys. And at the final moment, T-Rex breaks into the scene and starts a fight with the velociraptors. There's the concept of vengeance. The T-Rex comes in and punishes the bad velociraptors and allows the heroes to escape. This actually happens in more or less in every film. In Jurassic Park 2, T-Rex appears there to at the end to punish the evil corporate, the main leader of the engine, or the main henchman of the engine's board of directors, whose fault the entire mess is.
Mm.
Then in Jurassic World, T-Rex is mostly all off scene, but at the end of the film, he appears to avenge or punish the Indominus Rex, who is the main bad guy of the film. In Fallen Kingdom, T-Rex once again mostly is absent, and in the final moments, he avenges to the slimy businessman who hides underneath the car. Like you have the avenging or the punishing T-Rex, and that's essentially what he does, or she does, because it's the goddamn same T-Rex from the first film.
Yeah.
That the franchise is unwilling to even bring you a new T-Rex.
The franchise is kind of half trying to move on, and at the same time, when it comes to the end conclusion, let's just bring back T-Rex to sort it out for you. So
Yeah,
essentially, it's not the movie of Indominus Rex. What it does at the end is succumbing to nostalgia for reasons, and then it kind of makes it even more lame.
it,
And it character assassinates T-Rex because in the Jurassic Park 3 there's the battle against this bad dinosaur that is in the lead. Now it seems that the mighty Tyrannosaurus is no longer so mighty, and it seems that some other dinosaur is able to take him down. I don't know why even to do that. Just, of course, to show that, yeah, this dinosaur is more dangerous, but do we care, really?
not really. No, because at that point you already know exactly how the formula of a Jurassic Park film is gonna work out. It's a whole bunch of yelling and screaming and running away from dinos, and then somehow the heroes manage to escape.
Yeah, yeah.
Perhaps somebody gets eaten, but everybody always manages to, or the surviving characters, the main heroes always manage to run from point A to point B, and point B is a safe place.
Yeah, this particular devaluation of T-Rex's character that I wanted to point out is in Jurassic World when the kids enter the park and they go on their tour, and we have a scene where the brothers are just bobbing about, and one is looking at his cell phone and the other one is trying eagerly to look at the T-Rex biting into some animal once again. Is it one of those, what do you call them?
It's a code or something like.
Yeah, one of those goats probably. And the crowd is cheering. We barely see the T-Rex, and it's just become some kind of a everyday mundane thing that here's T-Rex, and not wanting to particularly hide T-Rex apart from the crowd being in front of the T-Rex, but it's just one attraction of many type of thing now.
Well, but in these films, T-Rex is kind of an attraction. Like it was, T-Rex was already an attraction in the first one. It was supposed to be kind of the main big badass dinosaur.
It
Well,
was.
when people, yeah, it was when people talk about the dinosaurs in the original, they always talk about T-Rex. So T-Rex very much was an attraction in the first one. It became an attraction through the way how people talked about the film, but it was also meant to be an attraction. It was also very much meant to be an attraction in the second one, where once again, yeah, the film builds expectation for the audiences to wait exactly when the T-Rex is showing up. The second one hypes up the moment for the T-Rex to finally show up in the film, and it is also an attraction in the literal sense, because T-Rex is the dinosaur that the slimy businessman decides to bring back to the mainland as the only dinosaur that he captures from the quote unquote lost world. In the third one, T-Rex works as an attraction. This is perhaps the one that downplays the whole attraction factor the most, but it it still works at least as a half attraction, because their T-Rex is supposed to show up as to hype up the new bad dino, to show exactly how dangerous the fin crocodile dinosaur is. And then in Lost World films, T-Rex is built up as an nostalgic attraction to the audiences.
Yeah.
Like the whole point of showing you the T-Rex in Lost World films is to get the audiences go, hey, it's the T-Rex from the original. I remember that dinosaur. That's why it's so important that in Lost World films, the T-Rex always is the one from the first film. That's why it's so important that you always notice the scars that the T-Rex gets in the first Jurassic Park when he's dueling with the Velociraptors. That's why both Jurassic World movies make damn sure that at the end of the film, T-Rex makes the T-Rex pose from the first Jurassic Park. It's an attraction. It's an attraction meant to make the audience connect with the Jurassic World films through nostalgia. And it's funny as fuck that the Jurassic World films are so eager to play with the nostalgia factor, because at the same time, the films, especially the first Jurassic World, it had this weird dynamic where it wants the audiences to connect with it through nostalgia, and at the same time it's kind of a shaming the audiences for the nostalgia that it wants them to feel. Like you asked why Jurassic World feels that it has to do the whole clone dinosaur thing. And if you take the answer of the first Jurassic World film, that is because as the film said it bluntly, the audiences have become jaded with just dinosaur. They want something new, bigger, meaner. As Wu says it, audiences want more teeth. And
I don't.
surprise, surprise, that the message that, or the meta narrative of the Jurassic World is supposed to be that you are the audience. You are the one who no longer is satisfied simply by seeing dinosaurs. You, Karri, you are the one who demands new, bigger, and meaner dinosaurs. Why isn't T-Rex enough for you, Karri? The film asks. And then in the final climax, it tries to hammer home how wrong you have been when you have been demanding new, bigger, meaner, more teeth dinosaurs. Because thematically the end climax of Jurassic World 1 is essentially quote unquote authentic versus quote unquote manufactured, where
Yeah.
the originals eventually beat the shit out of Indominus Rex. Like when you look at the meta narrative aspect of the film, it almost comes off as a plot point where you are being shown, you are being told to fuck off because you dared, because you demanded. You, Karri, you demanded Indominus Rex, and you shouldn't have
Nope.
done that because the original is always better than the new hype machine that you wanted. So fuck you. That's essentially what the film ends up saying.
Yeah, Chris Pratt already said that, or put it into question that do we really need to see these modified creatures? Isn't it enough? Aren't people here to see the actual dinosaurs? I was. But nostalgia wins, yes. We have it in the music as well. We have of course, the Jurassic Park theme still. We don't actually really have it much in Fallen Kingdom. We have it still here. I look at the comments that people make on the soundtrack, which is actually pretty good in the Jurassic Park. Michael Giacchino did it, and he did also the soundtrack to the Lost World video game, if somebody remembers that. So there's one little tiny cue from that Lost World soundtrack that he did. But yeah, it recycles the Jurassic Park main theme, and people seem to be in tears and commenting, "Oh yes, 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 nostalgia, nostalgia." Here it hits. Yeah, it does, but you know what? Jurassic World already has a pretty good theme jingle or theme sound of its own. I quite like that theme that he came up with the film. When the Jurassic Park theme is used in Jurassic World, it's kind of a weird moment where the kid goes to the hotel room's balcony. I don't want to wait anymore. And he opens the balcony room, and then we see the whole Jurassic World in its glory. So here the Jurassic Park theme is being shown connected to the finished park, which is kind of a reaction when you see that with the theme music, because it was before connected with the dinos. Now it's just some industrial design that you're looking at. I could change gears a bit and jump into discussing Jurassic Park 3, because there is not too much to talk about it, is there? This is the part in the franchise that maybe the most is stuck with the past. And something interesting is that it doesn't carry on the overall franchise story one single iota. It doesn't do anything with the future of the franchise. It's just kind of repeating the past of the franchise. It's essentially a rescue mission, a separate rescue mission in the franchise on this Isla Sorna island, and that's it.
Well, it does and it does not. It tries to continue from the first one in form of one of the new themes that these sequels actually managed to dig up. It's really quickly over and really small, but it's one of the themes that I really liked in the sequels, and that is the fact that Grant and Ellie did not get together, but their relationship stayed as professional and academic, and also the fact that Grant is kind of an old world relic, as something that is as he says it, the last of his kind, or as Ellie's kid says it, the dinosaur man. And I really liked that one. That is kind of the part that continues from the first film, and it this was again something where the franchise always fucks it up. It tries to pave a way for the franchise for the next film to go someplace different. The film ends with one of the final shots being the pteranodons.
The Ranodon.
Yeah, like you said it. My tongue does not twist enough to form all these sentences, but with them flying away from the island towards to what, well, judging from the direction the Grant's helicopter is going, to the mainland. So there you have the attempt to take some dinosaurs to a next location, bringing them to mainland, having the opportunity for the next film to do something with the concept of dinosaurs in the mainland.
And they never utilize that.
They never utilize that. But then again, bless their heart, that's kind of something that every single one of the sequels tries to do.
Yeah,
Jurassic Park 2 does this, the T-Rex comes to the mainland, it gets shipped back, and everybody apparently forgets about it. The Jurassic World 1, once again, has the flying ones, which you can pronounce and I don't. Well, yeah, don't get to the mainland. Then Fallen Kingdom finally gets them to the mainland for the second time. This time also sets them free. And if Battle at the Big Rock is anything to go by, does nothing with them once again. The franchise always does this thing where it takes the dinosaurs at the very end, brings them to mainland, or raises up the possibility that they might now reach the mainland, and then quickly forgets it in the beginning of the next film and returns back to the status quo, which is dinosaurs in kind of an individual cut off foresty place where people have to go.
Yes, this is an unusual ending in Jurassic Park 3 for a couple of reasons. One reason being the fact that they actually were meant to do that back in the original film. They were meant to see pteranodons flying away from the island, and Dr. Grant and the rest looking back at it smiling, I guess, because that's what the end cut is. But the pteranodon is replaced by a normal bird, which is a much better solution in my opinion. Like, there would be nothing to smile about if the pteranodons would be leaving the island. So now this is rehashed in Jurassic Park 3. Why? I don't know. Why never utilize it? I don't know. But there is this connection, and why are they smiling? Happy times. And why only now? This is kind of saying that, okay, it's only now that the pteranodons are leaving the territory. Perhaps they had, like, what, 7 years, 8 years to do that. When it comes to the romantic department that you touched upon, it's sometimes quite questionable. Like, okay, we don't get Dr. Grant and Ellie Sattler together. Fine. And as you said, these scenes with the little boy work really well, and they create really authentic kind of Dr. Grant moments when he's trying to explain to the boy that no, these are actually two herbivores. They wouldn't fight against one another. Maybe a little bit stupid, but for example, in Jurassic Park 3, you have this couple who wants to get their kid back from the island, and the woman is already remarried, right? Or is in a new relationship. And then now they start to have like some feelings towards one another again, this original couple on the island in this really ham-fisted ways. And I'm not sure if the audience is really interested in that anyhow, as they are kind of this really caricaturic and extremely stupid characters. Then we have this Ellie Sattler, Dr. Grant tension, because there certainly is something kind of a, I would say, kind of a romantic tension going on when Dr. Grant gets into his car. And, well, by the way, one more thing. Okay, one more thing. Okay, now I'm going. Bye. It's kind of elongated shots back to back. Then there is, of course, this something that is not related to marriage or making it kind of awkward for the audience. There is this Mrs. or Miss Heels, as I call her, in the Jurassic World series. And then the Mr. Handman, Chris Pratt's character. These and their adventures. Apparently it's suggested that they had previous encounter sexually. I don't know if we're that interested. And then again, they do the same damn thing in Fallen Kingdom. They have broken up, and then they kind of reminisce, and then they get back together again. Lazy writing.
It is, but as mentioned, that kinda is Jurassic Park. Like somehow, I'm not entirely certain why this is, but somehow the every single entry in the franchise chickens out when they are supposed to take it properly into a new direction. Every single time, they always, every one of these sequels wants to return back to the original status quo, where characters who were not together in the beginning of the previous film are not together now either. They always break up behind the scenes. The dinosaurs never get into any kind of a properly new place. And as mentioned, even the whole basic structure of the narrative, where it's just run from point A to point B, like there's something in the main concept of Jurassic Park, and I would say this most likely is the problem of the main concept of Jurassic Park. Exactly how the story worked in the first film.
Yeah,
That
it's
you just like you can't do anything drastically new.
and why would you? It seems to be making a fortune for them. Well, let's say Lost World and Jurassic Park 3. They weren't the same cash cows as the first one, obviously, but Jurassic World somehow succeeded in being, well, quite close to the original in the amount of money that it garnered. Of course, inflation not taken into account, but still, it was a huge, massive hit. These movies try to be quite modern. In the Lost World, you have this black kid, certainly adopted but not discussed in any way in the film, as far as I remember. It's the kid of this Julianne Moore and or it was before that. I don't know.
It's somebody's kid. I never figured out whose and from what relationship.
Yeah, but she's there, and she is, in fact, a woman or a girl, and is able to kick the Velociraptor's butt.
In one of the most stupidest scenes I've seen in a Jurassic Park film.
Which even Jeff Goldblum is not able to say with his joke.
And by God, if Jeff Goldblum doesn't try to somehow carry, well, as once we reach the end of Fallen Kingdom, basically the entire franchise on his shoulders.
Yeah, oh boy, the trailer was all over Jeff Goldblum in the Fallen Kingdom trailer, and it was so overblown that okay, we have Jeff Goldblum back, and what does he do? He just sits for a couple of minutes in the courtroom. That's all you get.
Yeah, in scenes which I take Jeff Goldblum, appeared for exactly for one day, because that's the vibe I get from Jeff here.
Yeah, there to collect the paycheck, I would say.
Pretty much. But then again, what else could he do? The script, once again, it doesn't know how to utilize Jeff Goldblum or what even do with him.
Yeah,
This is
yes, it does. Yes, it does. Fallen Kingdom is using Jeff Goldblum to once again make him say the legendary line of life
life,
finds a way.
finds a way. Then again, this is something that's actually quite strange for me, at least in Fallen Kingdom. To me, Jeff Goldblum appears to be some type of attempt to bring back not John Hammond, which the film also already is doing with by introducing a new character who is not John Hammond. This one being John Hammond's original business partner, who was never mentioned in Jurassic Park lore up until this point, but who very obviously is supposed to be some kind of an insert John Hammond
Yeah,
up until up to the point where he too has a walking stick with a fucking fossilized mosquito inside of an ember.
the discount John Hammond, as someone
That,
said.
that, yeah,
It's really hard to understand why Fallen Kingdom wants to hammer a lot of backstory home in a way that nobody would have known that, or that it would in any way actually be useful information in Fallen Kingdom. But there was this line, "That's John Hammond," but you already knew that. Yeah, of course Heels knew that. She was working for the company that he created a long time ago. Like it's just forced backstory telling in these ham-fisted ways. But it's the 13th highest grossing film of all time, so what do you know? Well, there is one kind of a fresh idea in Jurassic World. The completely brain dead idea of using the dinos as military weapons. How does that work? Velociraptors as a government weapon for hire? Jesus, why not use bears? lions, in fact, now. That's right, because they're not practical. What you're gonna do that, unless it's gonna be something really specific, like attacking a building for a moment and eating the occupants, I guess, including the people who handle them.
Yeah, like you mentioned, the main idea presented there does not work. And by God, if the Lost World films don't try to convince you otherwise, that they make a huge fuss about exactly how effective, well, essentially reptilian brain controlled animals would be in combat situations. That they are the throwback line to Tora Bora. The second one, Fallen Kingdom, it goes out of its way to convince you that dinosaurs would work in military sense, where it mentions that people have been using animals in warfare all the time, through course of the history. Like there's the lions and the diseased rats and the elephants. But basically, what's funny about that is it's that the reason why we have used animals in warfare in the past times is because they have been convenient and we haven't had any other forms to do the job better. Like elephants were used as a form of transport because we didn't have cars or nor tanks. Like it's a giant ass animal that can carry a huge load. Of course, it makes sense that you might use it to as a form of travel if you don't have cars or if you don't have any kind of automobile. But it makes no goddamn sense in these days. And to stick with that, it also makes the whole point. This is an actual plot point in the goddamn Fallen Kingdom where the Indoraptor works through some kind of a specialized or modified gun. Like you point the targeting laser at the target, and then you press a button which sends the audio signal to Indoraptor, which makes it attack.
Yeah, which makes it so that whoever is making that signal will eat the person who sent the signal, dumbass.
Yeah, and which also kind of raises the question: if the whole mechanic is that you have to point the laser at the target and
Right?
press a button, why not just add bullets
Right.
and have God like?
And once again, who wants to see these kind of dinosaurs who are kind of controlled by their human counterparts to a degree and not natural
Well, this
and bulletproof?
well the the thing here, what I suspect how we ended up into this particular mess is that this is once again something that was toyed around in the franchise previously, and which, if utilized, could have been perhaps maybe interesting and take the franchise to a new direction. In the previous concepts where the story could have go after the first film, there was this notion about using militarized human dinosaur hybrids. Like you were supposed to have this half human, half dinos with machine guns and stuff like that. Like that was the way how originally it was concepted, that the whole military complex and its interest on the dinosaur DNA technology could be utilized in the franchise. I don't know, would it have worked, but it at least it would have been a new direction. And I don't know, maybe it could have been good. Hard to say. It never advanced beyond original concept art. But that was an idea that was being toyed around. None of the films were brave enough to tackle that plot point. So now with Jurassic World, you come into this lukewarm moment where they kinda wanna bring that plot point. You have the military complex. There is the secret branch of InGen who tries to militarize the dinosaurs, but it just doesn't have the courage to go to the full human dinosaur hybrid. You just have weaponized dinosaurs and dinosaur hybrids, and that's the end result is well, it would be more effective just use tanks and use
Yeah,
guns. Dumb animals don't work. There's no any kind of a strategic benefit in using dinosaurs, no matter how much the film tries to justify this to you by making repeated notions how, well, in reality the dinosaurs are like the second smartest things on the planet, or this velociraptor blue can play six-dimensional chess games, and the Indoraptor has shown really complex mathematics skills and is almost nuclear physicist.
the, yeah, I want some of that psilocybin that the screenwriters must be using. I would quote one guy from Letterboxd, Matt Singer, who said, quote, "The only characters who behave rationally, in fact, are the dinosaurs. At one point, someone refers to Blue as the second smartest animal on Earth. And based on the evidence in this film, I think it's time for a recount."
Mm, but that's kind of a, once again, it ties around to another big problem that the films, especially the Jurassic World parts have, which is this the really twisted and weird notion that we humans, we always have to humanize the animals, because that's what goes on with the velociraptors in Jurassic World. To an
Yeah.
extent, this already happens in Jurassic Park 2, where they have the baby T-Rex, and the parents are really like worried about what happened to their kin. That, of course, that really does happen in the animal world, but the way how the film like visually frames the whole parent baby relationship with the T-Rexes, it's to me it reads like the film wants to humanize the T-Rex. But that's a minor grab. It's not a huge deal. But by God, if the Jurassic World movies don't go all in into this idea that we have to humanize the dinosaurs to a point where, well, Blue and other velociraptors, they have the pack loyalty, and they have some kind of a, I don't know if it's some kind of a macho dick lust towards Chris Pratt's character, and where once again the dinosaurs appear to have some kind of a, it's not established that they have, but the way how they act as quote unquote good guys, some kind of a sense of justice built into them. And Fallen Kingdom goes over its way to actually humanize the velociraptors by making the point how especially Blue has extremely strong moral compass and has been able to kind of have a sense of empathy, and there's almost this kind of a like, I don't know if it's supposed to be love between Blue and Chris Pratt, or if it's some kind of a battle brother camaraderie that they are supposed to share. But by for fuck's sake, if there is not some law gazes between the two, especially at the end of Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah, there were especially loving gazes at the moment when the black trainee falls into the Velociraptor gates, and then Chris Pratt has to save his butt and almost eat Chris Pratt. But then after that moment, it's back to riding the motorcycle heroically with the velociraptors on the sides, which is the poster of the first Jurassic World, ladies and gentlemen. Perhaps the dumbest moment of the film.
Well, it's a dumbass bricks, but it did look cool. It's just like that moment is one of the few things I like in the first Jurassic World. It's not smart and it doesn't really work. It looks cool,
Which
and
is also the
that's
point in the
something.
film where the kids and kind of everybody else have decided that Chris Pratt is the master of the show here, and let's just all follow Chris Pratt, and everything will be just fine. It's called the Chris Pratt cult, I believe.
Yeah, and it's really obnoxious.
Yeah, and when it comes to this humanizing of the animals, particularly maybe velociraptors here, or maybe you could even call it maybe something that suggests a little bit step further, anthropomorphizing the animals. As a kid, I kept wondering why a dino story has to be tied with storylines of creeds and parks and humans, actually. That the dinos are already interesting enough for a kid anyway. So for a long time, I felt that the humans were kind of a nuisance. I didn't feel empathy towards the humans in these movies. I just wanted more dinosaurs, and we came to see dinosaurs, not humans.
It is silly. It's especially silly in Fallen Kingdom. It's also I would argue even bit dangerous, especially in Fallen Kingdom's universe, because at the end of the film, one of the only real attempts to have any kind of an argument, to have any kind of a discussion, and that's the moment when there was that gas leak at the basement of the Lockwood Manor. The bad guys have caged up a whole bunch of dinosaurs, and a gas leak breaks out, and there is the risk that the dinosaurs will suffocate as a result. And well, first of all, once again, that the humanizing attempt comes full front here when the film tries to really manipulate tears and worry out of the audience by showing you animals dying, and there are these kind of like this music swells, and there are these shots at the baby dinosaurs as they scream, and you're really supposed to feel it. And that first of all, that's manipulative and that's somewhat stupid. But what's definitely stupid and in film's universe pretty damn dangerous is the moment when Lockwood's brain dead fucking cloned kid decides to break the dinosaurs outside of the cages and open the last door, open the basement door so that they can all dinosaurs can escape outside, because quote unquote they are alive just like me. And
Except missing giant pointy teeth and bulletproof skin for once.
yeah, and escaping the fact that you just fucking released T-Rexes and Velociraptors into human populace.
And you just
Like,
couldn't push the magic button and kind of push it again and just keep the animals there still suffocating.
yeah. Like I can somehow I can understand the argument, let them live, set them free with something like a carnivore. That might only harm the ecosystem.
I think this
But
is some
but
kind of a major plot point with the British accent here. Like the film points out that we are not wild animals here. You can't pronounce it bath. You have to say bath. And I guess it's the power of the British accent that they are just completely they freeze in animation. All the adults when he says that they're alive like me.
yeah, something. Chris Pratt should have actually shot the kid at that point, because now you have like families.
Well,
living in areas where someday velociraptors will roam.
that's okay.
I can just expect, wait the days when it turns out that Blue is munching on 6-year-olds.
I would have loved to see what Dr. Malcolm would have had to say about this. They're alive like me. Well, in fact, to paraphrase Dr. Malcolm here, like that is one big pile of shit writing right there.
Yeah.
And interesting ideas about that the assets, as they say, these assets, these created animals, they don't have rights. We own them. Quoting, what about man creating man? Or a girl?
Well, if Blade Runner is anything to go by, you own that too. No matter does it have a conscious, does it have self-awareness, as long as you create it, it's yours.
We already got to human cloning, and somehow John Hammond was pretty hush hush about that in the previous films. That's a big jump. Did you see that this obviously evil, super evil businessman who is selling the dinosaurs has this kind of a Trump hair?
Also, extremely embarrassingly big teeth prostheses on the dude who is leading the auction. Toby Jones, who plays the auction leader, he physically is the Trump guy.
Sorry for Toby Jones if that's your actual hair, but
Well, at least it's not Toby Jones's actual teeth. I don't know what the what the prosthetics guys were or the prop department was thinking when they made that decision.
what's the dumbest moments from these films? I would definitely have to say Fallen Kingdom. We already mentioned this clone girl's decision to release the animals. In the Lost World, maybe the biggest issue is that it's just very dead inside sometimes. It kind of drags on and has not a hell of a lot to do there. And at one point, they're just trying to escape from the island, and that's all the plot you get. They're just trying to reach the shore, which takes ages, of course, because there's a lot of dino munching to do. And then, of course, they take the T Rex to the mainland, which kind of drags on. But it's cool to see. Which includes maybe the kind of most interesting scene, or maybe second most interesting scene of the film, where the T Rex goes into this family's yard, and this little kid sees the T Rex in the window and goes to report this incident to mommy and daddy. Completely unnecessary and really long scene, but I kind of love that. Kind of Spielberg doing his King Kong film here. Jurassic Park 3, just that it's kind of sitting idle and doing nothing, as far as I'm concerned. And this couple characters are quite weakly written. We mainly care about Dr. Grant's character, right? And even Dr. Grant doesn't have a hell of a lot to do here, just being Dr. Grant. Jurassic World, Indominus Rex, I suppose.
Well, if you are asking for me, I would say that there's one really stupid choice that basically all the sequels make. Perhaps also the first one, but if we would got the film some slack, but most definitely sequels, and that is basically all the lip service that the sequels wants to play towards John Hammond, who repeatedly gets painted up as this huge humanitarian or animal rights activist, or you name it, the good guy who always is brought back when somebody wants to make the argument in these films how there was a noble attempt at the beginning, or how there were noble values presented by someone who tied to the Jurassic Park, the theme park concept. And that's like, to be absolutely honest, John Hammond in the first one, he was like the daftest asshole imaginable.
Well, he's a character who very much loves dinos, and even when they're in the dinner table and nobody's eating anything, but they're at the dinner table, and John Hammond seems to be sarcastic when he makes the notion, or seems to agree with the lawyer that, yeah, we can have the rich kids out here, but we can have some discount days so we can get some other normal people also onto the island. I'm not sure if John Hammond is really. He just wants his vision to actualize. In the book, he may be a little bit more malevolent.
Um, he may be more malevolent in the books, but by no means. John Hammond is not the good guy or the hero of the first film.
Well, he's definitely not the good guy in the second one when he's making all new one mistakes.
Yeah. Like he just becomes more and more insidious as the films, as the franchise progresses. But in the end, essentially, it's John Hammond's like brain-numbingly stupid decisions that caused the whole Jurassic Park incident in the first place.
May I remind our listeners once again, one of the main reasons being that Nedry is the only one responsible for the security and the tech at the island.
Yeah. At the same time, Nedry also is a character who John Hammond is not paying the top dollar, seeing how Nedry is asking for more money. Nedry makes a direct point that John Hammond can't find another tech specialist to run the entire IT security, the entire security system of the park for as little money as John Hammond is willing to pay. And when Nedry points this out, this small fact that John Hammond essentially is overpaying his security, the IT department, John Hammond just kind of verbally abuses the Nedry. Like I get it in the film. In the film, the film makes kind of the point that Nedry is the bad guy. Nedry tries to steal the embryos from John Hammond. In order to do this, he temporarily turns off the security features in the park, and that's what leads into the incident.
And in the Jurassic Park book, also, it says that Nedry and Hammond had some kind of a legal battle. So you think that John Hammond would care more about his employees at that point?
Yeah, you would, but no. Even though John Hammond makes the argument, and the sequels also bring this point up, that John Hammond spared no expense.
No.
That's like the John like if you would have to like single out one characteristics of John Hammond based on the dialogue of the man, he's the guy who spared no expense. Except he really did spare fucking expense, a hell of a lot of it, when it came to the security of his park. He essentially, the man spared no expense when it came to, getting 50 different flavors of ice cream into your fucking ice cream buffet. But when it came to the actual security features within the park, when it came to staff, when it came to having enough people to keep your guests safe from flesh-eating dinosaurs, well, that's where he spared expense. Shit ton of them. Everybody was underpaid.
And of course, the fact that he wanted to automate as much of the park as possible, that can be seen as sparing expense eventually, with all those fancy CD-ROM technologies in the car and what have you.
That's it's really goddamn weird seeing how how from first from Steven Spielberg and then from Trevorrow comes bunch of films which essentially argues, I would say, for communism, or at least for proletariat, against the oppressive and careless capitalistic overlords. Because I mean, this is something where you kind of have to look at how the characters are being framed visually, and also what happens in the dialogue department. Because when it comes to Jurassic Park films, including the Jurassic Worlds, because somehow how they all copy the same notion, that the same visual styles, but the main heroes, these being your Grants, your Chris Pratts, they are being portrayed very much like a blue collar workers, like the proletariat. Of course, yeah. Grant and Ellie and Ian Malcolm, they are all professors, which means that they must have university degrees, which in America means that they must somehow be well with money. Like there has to have been some kind of a financial backing so that they can pay the tuition fees in order to get the university degrees. And now they are in cozy university jobs. They are researchers and scientists. That much is true. And in that sense, yes, they are in the upper echelon of financial and social ladder. But the way how the films actually frame these characters, when you first meet Grant and Ellie, they are in a dusty old dig site. Their clothes are dirty, and they are doing, even though it's extremely technical, but they are still doing digging, which we usually see as a manual labor, blue collar work, something that proletariat does. That's how you are introduced to the heroes of the film. And then you have the capitalistic side of the characters. These are your John Hammonds. These are the leadership of the park in the Jurassic World films. Your Claires who run the show. And repeatedly, the dynamic is that the capitalistic corporate overheads, they somehow fuck it up. Like Hammond spares all the expense when it comes to security. In the first one. In the second one, John Hammond essentially bullies and kill trips and just lures Ian Malcolm to return back to the island where he doesn't want to go, but now has to because John Hammond already shipped his lady friend there. So now it's a rescue mission. In Jurassic World films, the capitalistic overheads, they are glowing dinosaurs which they don't even know what the fuck they are doing. And well, Claire's every single choice that she makes, everybody has been pointing this out, but every single choice that Claire makes in the first Jurassic World, it's the wrong choice. You could just check if the Indominus Rex is in his cage, but
Yeah.
instead you leave the premises, you go back to the main center to check it out. Like Jesus fucking Christ. And
Yeah.
so they create the incident, and then the proletariat hero characters have to risk life and limb to save the civilians, save the kids, save the park goers, somehow try to take down the now escaped carnivores. And this is something that is especially strong with Jurassic World films, which make the notion that Chris Pratt's character is an ex-soldier, ex-Navy SEAL, if I remember correctly, but most definitely an ex-soldier, soldiering also in America being pretty much a job that the lower economic classes have to do.
Therefore, since he is ex-Navy or Navy, he is able to kick some ass in the auction room and take care of I don't know how many bodyguards, obviously well trained, as pointed out by the interwebs.
Yeah, and because he's ex military, he also can train velociraptors and actually make himself to be an alpha to do a whole bunch of carnivore dinosaurs.
And also, because he's the lead character here and has been in military, that equals flawlessness. The flawless Alpha Owen, the Handman.
It does, to a point where even the Claire's sisters, kids, the two main child characters, of the first Jurassic World film starts to appreciate Chris Pratt over Claire.
Yeah, yeah. Well, understandably. And well, in Jurassic World, when the chaos is happening and the pteranodons have escaped and they are throwing the customers all over the place, here we have the awkward kiss between Chris Pratt and the Aunt Claire.
Ah, yeah.
That didn't work. Then
No.
I'm not even sure what the actor Bryce Dallas Howard is meant to aim for here, as she seems to be really now interested about the well-being of the kids. Are you okay? Are you all right? Are you hurt? And at this point, they clearly choose Chris Pratt over her. Like, was
Yeah.
that meant to be genuine? And if so, it's really not coming through. I don't feel that the character is genuine in both of the Jurassic World films in
Well,
any way. And this is a kind of a problem in Fallen Kingdom because suddenly, I don't know how, but this despicable Auntie Claire is now the good guy, a good girl, who has some kind of a foundation where she's collecting money
yeah,
to rescue the animals that she was working with.
yeah,
Assets.
yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot why that happens. Like to you had several points to address all of them, like individually. First of all, yes. Auntie Claire was supposed to be genuine when she was worried about the well-being of the kids. Are you okay? That was supposed to be the moment for the character when she gets fixed or when she gets repaired. Auntie Claire up until this point has been the woman who has put career before family and has been I don't need kids.
Once
I,
again.
I have my career, I'm a boss lady. And the film wants to frame this as Auntie Claire being broken. And it's during these moments that Auntie Claire is repaired. Now she is caring about the kids, and this is supposed to lead into this emotional fulfillment in the audiences, that at the closing shot you are supposed to feel that Auntie Claire and Chris Pratt get together and have kids of their own.
Oh, oh.
Yeah.
Except no one buys it, I think.
And no one buys it, but too bad for Bryce Dallas Howard, but unfortunately you got stuck in Colin Trevorrow film, because Colin Trevorrow is a man who has some really funny notions about women, as at least if you are to believe his films.
Oh,
Essentially all women are stupid, and even an 11-year kid is smarter than women. That's the
what?
big teaching of Book of Henry, which
No,
was Trevorrow's previous film.
now, careful, Henrik. Do you really want to state that?
Well, what can I do? What can I do? I'm working with Colin Trevorrow material here.
But do you know that I actually also paid attention to the fact that, okay, we're in 2015 and the woman character is inherently evil until she's not, and kissy kiss.
Yes, and that unfortunately is what leads us to the point you raised up with Fallen Kingdom, where Auntie Claire's character gets completely revamped into bleeding heart animal conservatist. See, Trevorrow and the first Lost World, when it came out, got some flack for the fact that Auntie Claire's character is very much like old female character, like in the sense
Mm-hmm.
that she is a character the way how women were, like in a way how female characters are not supposed to be anymore. The film was being blamed for being sexist, and at its worst being blamed for being even misogynist in its portrayal of Claire, where the female in charge is completely incapable, to do rational decisions, makes
Mm.
all the mistakes, is overly emotional, can't help but get into, lost in Chris Pratt's man meat, eventually is fixed when she decides that kids are okay and I kind of want a family of my own. All of these little things got called out by the audiences,
Yeah,
and that's something that they actually try to course correct in Fallen Kingdom.
yeah,
That's why she now is some supposed to be some kind of an action lady, and she's super interested about the dinosaurs and all that shit. Except once again, none of that works because none of that is genuine.
even though this is a Colin Trevorrow film, and that might count as much as it might count, but this series is full of these very one-dimensional characters until proven wrong, moments before they're eaten. So it's hardly the first time that there are male or female characters who are completely obsessed about one goal and are completely and utterly blind for rational decision making.
Yeah, and especially with female characters, the age old trope that of course they must have a love interest from the male counterpart.
Yeah,
Like,
because
yeah,
script.
yeah, like you said that in the Jurassic World where the Chris Pratt's kiss scene is honky as hell, and you're absolutely correct. It is. But the film and Colin Trevorrow is under the false impression that it somehow comes off as heartfelt and genuine. Colin
Oh,
Trevorrow is sure of himself that he now is making some kind of a fucking movie art here, and all he actually is doing, he's just repeating is repeating a decades old notion of quote unquote how women work.
okay. This is from an interview directly, or that he makes the point about the women, or you're just reading what he's doing.
I'm just reading what he's doing and what he has done in previous films.
Yeah, one more notion about Trevor Rowe is that he said in an interview that he always wanted to make Jurassic World Dominion, or the kind of Jurassic World where the dinosaurs are able to go to the mainland and wreak havoc against the humans. He felt that there should be two movies that kind of take us there before we have the right to take the dinosaurs to the mainland. So that's exactly how Fallen Kingdom feels like. Like it's just some kind of a transition piece. Like let's get this over with and move on to the real thing that we want to tell about, which is probably not gonna work anyway. And Colin is going to direct that one now. Fallen Kingdom was directed by this friend, J.A. Bayona.
Yeah, who previously has had been most well known for making horror films like The Orphanage.
And A Monster Calls.
Yup. And did the Fallen Kingdom's benefit or defense or what have you? I think that the change in direction actually benefited Fallen Kingdom. The real problem with Fallen Kingdom is that the script is still written by Trevorrow, who once again can't really change the way how the characters act or how they are. Like you kind of see in Fallen Kingdom, you kind of see forceful attempts to somehow enemy or reactionary to the criticism that the first Jurassic World got. But like you mentioned, none of it really works. Like Auntie Claire is now animal right activist who tries to raise money, and it's still stupid as hell. And with Fallen Kingdom, that the first 2/3 of the film essentially are a rehash from the Jurassic Park 2. The only interesting stuff, in my opinion, happens during the last third when they finally get to the Lockwood Manor. This is also the moment where I think that Bayona's directing and his experience with horror films kind of starts to play off, because there is a tonal shift when once they leave the island and get to the mansion. In the mansion, it's more like a horror movie or something like a Dino Crisis video game.
And Fallen Kingdom and to an extent The Lost World have a weird fascination with Jurassic Age animal torture. I don't know if you noticed that, but I found it really uncomfortable that man creates a dinosaur and then decides to not help them in the moment of crisis, perhaps as they should, but they create them and then they are swallowed by ash and lava. And you just hear the death cries of brachiosaurs on the beach, and
Yeah,
you see a lot of dying.
you do, and you in both films you also have the white hunter guy who has to pull off a teeth
Hmm.
from a dinosaur. In Jurassic Park 2,
Yeah.
it's just one moment. If I remember correctly, it's one teeth that Peter Braithwaite's hunter character is interested in. But in Fallen Kingdom, Ted Levine's hunter character is just, I don't know, overworked dentist basically.
Yeah, man, I have things to say about that character. Like, once again, a character who is completely motivated by his own things and completely blind to anything else. And even just makes a completely absurd moment in the film where they're trying to gonna capture the Velociraptor Blue. They completely mess up the operation. Well, I don't know what the hell Chris Pratt was aiming to do there, talking to the animal. But then they bring two sedatives into the animal, and then the situation, of course, goes out of hand, and then they shoot the Velociraptor with the live ammunition, which kind of serves as the inciting incident as well when the hunter changes kind of the behavior or just showcases to the audience what he is really about. For example, shooting a dart into Chris Pratt for no reason at all. And then Chris Pratt doing gymnastics to get out of the lava fields. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. That's also a moment that happens in the film.
yeah, I really wish it would have been a moment where Chris Pratt or the character Owen's face would be partially burned, and he would be like that for the rest of the film. That would have been cool.
but that would also be impossible because Chris Pratt is playing the asbestos man,
Oh,
as is plainly obvious in that one moment where you clearly see, and they CGI'd the lava precisely to do this, so you know that it's intentional and not some kind of a goof. But Chris Pratt's hand gets buried under burning lava, and he just pulls it off.
oh, it's just because he's throwing some leaves or whatnot, and then they hit the lava. That's how I took it. But oh, could be that too, and the fact that his internal organs should have been fried at that point.
Yeah, and he should actually choke when he
Yep.
gets inside the fucking ash cloud.
Yeah.
You know, that shit is actually dangerous for your lungs. You shouldn't breathe it.
Yeah. This Owen just happens to be there, runs like a superhero, then
Hmm.
re-emerges under the water, is able to see under the water, goes for a breather on top while all of the other animals are falling down on him, and then he swims back to the device and rescues the two guys. Yeah, yeah, superhero, alpha male.
Essentially, yeah. but in some way, it's a logical conclusion for Chris Pratt's character from the first film, because the first film also wants to paint him up as some kind of a superhero. It's just too cowardly to properly do it. So now in here you have Chris Pratt, who is immune to lava and ash and drowning and, well, you name it.
Right. And the bad dinos and their behavior in the sequels just gets more aggressive and more nonsensical, in my opinion. What the hell were those birds in Jurassic World, where you have these pteranodons and then these other flying creatures that don't seem to be pteranodons at all, but they look like I don't know, vampires. Then the birds acting really erratically. They're lifting up other dinos and humans, just being chaotic for
Yeah,
the fun of it.
yeah, and since you mentioned the flying dinos lifting up humans and getting it back to the point how Trevorrow seems to have some really funny notions about women, there's also that moment in Jurassic World where what is it, Auntie Claire's assistant, the British lady who doesn't even get a name, if I remember correctly, who is originally supposed to supervise the kids,
Hmm.
gets actually killed off like really, really sadistically. She gets lift off and then dropped down and lift off again, and then she's being drowned a little bit more, like fucking water tortured, and eventually, the what was the giant fish dinosaur eats her up,
Yeah.
which also feels and appears to be somewhat overly gleeful in exactly how horrible the death is when you compare it to other deaths in the film. Like the animals take time in torturing her before she gets killed. But once again, that's a female character for you in Colin Trevorrow feature.
Yeah, and this trope gets repeated in the beginning of 5 minutes of Fallen Kingdom, where there is, I don't know what is the most brain jackass moment of that film and the entire franchise, but it definitely is somewhere in Fallen Kingdom where now they're again trying to find some samples of the, I don't know what, are they trying to take a sample now of the Indominus Rex because somebody lost all the samples and left into the island or what? I don't know. Well, they're there to take a sample once again, and then the one guy just cannot possibly understand the concept of a hand wave of come here. What? What? And then T Rex is behind the bushes and he gets finally eaten. And then the fish dinosaur, I'm sorry, I'm also failing to remember this name, but yeah, that was big as a bus in its time. Well, it's really interesting how kind of relatively small changes to the DNA can bring huge changes in output. Like we're 50% similar to banana. Henrik, you're half a banana.
Not in the downstairs department, unfortunately.
Yeah, but otherwise, I think there's a huge stranglehold that the DNA has, and it's like the DNA. It actually predicts our life outcomes by up to 90% accuracy. So DNA tells you what is. So, for example, if you have a genetic high risk for alcoholism, you have a higher risk of becoming an alcoholic. Kind of makes sense. But fortunately, DNA doesn't tell you what you can be. So if you are conscious about your choices and you don't go to the bar in Rovaniemi all the time, you will not become an alcoholic. Obviously, you would need alcohol for that to happen, perhaps repeated doses. And in the same way, DNA mostly defines people's intellect as well. Like, just in the same way, it defines you have two arms, you have 2 feet. If you're born without your feet, you'd still be able to achieve things if your environment and other factors allow you to do this. So you can either sit at home, eat pizza, and die, or you can join the Paralympics and become a world champion. So, what it was kind of boiling down to is that life events matter, but they don't make a difference to your genetic makeup, at least not in any interesting amount. And unfortunately, there are people involved in entering areas with dangerous dinosaurs here multiple times. And clearly, these people decided that life events don't matter at all.
You referencing a particular plot point?
I'm referring to the fact that they are unable to learn from what is bad behavior and what you should avoid to survive or to become a better person. Don't go to the fucking island at all.
Yeah, maybe also don't copy the business plan of a man who invested I don't know fucking billions and jillions of dollars to create a personal private theme park island and then fucked up the security and lost everything. Maybe that's not a business adventure you wanna try again.
Perhaps while you're at it, don't hire 4 screenwriters and repeat only 3 different plot scenarios in the entire franchise. Well, if anything is pretty clear from the cinematic storytelling of the film is that Russia is running away with the embryos at the end of the film. Like there's a plane that has a Russian flag. Hello, we're Russia. We're taking these samples. Russia, the bad boy.
Yeah, but then again, why would you like you know asking like you would be a high paying Hollywood executive? Why would you have Russia in your film if not to be the bad guy?
And to have this line, 20 millions.
20 million with the obvious Russian accent. There's like the Cold War has ended, but Hollywood never got that notice.
No, and Slovakia is still Czechoslovakia. But hey, do we have any thoughts about Battle at Big Rock? So
Not much.
it's content-wise about 8 minutes, as you said. And what happens is that there is simply a family in this national park, and there's one herbivore. I'm sorry, I'm so bad with these dino names, but there's a herbivore who comes to mess around the camp. But then the Indominus Rex comes to the scene, and they battle it off.
It's not Indominus.
No?
Not in my opinion, but it's some type of a once again T-Rex copy
Yeah.
because you can only have two bad like or carnivore dinosaurs in this franchise. Uh
I like the fact that it's so simple as, short films usually are. But you have like a premise, you have a setup, you have a payoff. There is this guy who has taught the little girl to shoot arrows, and then she shoots arrows, and it's a big plot point because that's why the carnivore leaves the scene.
you also have once again in the end incredibly a lot of rehashed material from the from the previous films. You once again you have a nuclear family which has kind of a rough situation going on. This time it's not the parents, it's the adopted kids who kind of can't stand each other, but perhaps find common ground at the end. You also have a lot of like similar situations, like when the herbivores wars first appear, you once again you have that shot of the dinosaur's mouth from the side perspective, like it's always with T-Rex or Indominus Rex. You also have that look through glass at the carnivore dinosaur thing going on. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not shot for shot, but but you get a lot of moments where you notice that, hey, wait a minute, I have seen similar types of shots and situations in these films previously.
Whereas here we are getting down in the age scale. So now the kid that is being tortured here, one of them is like a baby, basically having like probably lifelong traumas. Oh yeah,
Well, that kid, fuck that kid. The kid deserves those traumas. Like, for fuck's sake, like the situation was well overhand. You had stayed quiet up until this point. The herbivores have left. The carnivore is almost leaving, and that's the moment you decide to cry. Fuck you.
yeah, but well, that aside, still, there's still Battle at Big Rock. As sad as it may be, it's much better film than Fallen Kingdom.
I don't know. I don't know. It's at least it's shorter, but it doesn't have the Dino Crisis mansion.
Oh boy,
In
Dino
both
Crisis.
cases, the ending is bullshit. You very clearly see that Trevorrow is once again trying to downplay it, or prove to the audiences that he learned his lesson from the backlash of Jurassic World. Now younger does some epic crossbow shooting with a speed that she really couldn't shoot two arrows so close to each other. Like you it's not a pistol, it's not an automatic weapon. Crossbows have to be reloaded between shots. But that's the moment where you can say female empowerment. I did a thing, and it's super obvious what's going on and hokey as hell. But I do credit Battle at Big Rock for the fact that even though the female empowerment moment is in my opinion, it's not done with heart, and it's not honest. It's very much manufactured moment, but perhaps accidentally Trevorrow actually managed to be progressive when he gender flipped the roles between the girl and the boy. Like at the very end, it's the boy who takes the nurturing role of the small child and is being like, don't cry, it's over. And it's the little girl who does the crossbow shooting. So,
Yeah,
that gender swap, that really is progressive. So, I give it that much. That's somewhere where Trevorrow actually managed to do something.
film keeps it simple and it's over soon and doesn't bite that badly. No pun intended.
No, but it does show you that if Battle at Big Rock is anything to go by, when we finally
Yeah,
get Dominion, it's gonna be the same bullshit
it's be
once
yeah.
again.
This feels exactly some kind of a small window of looking into what's about to come.
Yep. And apparently, what's about to come is, well, Jurassic Park once again. They are in closed environment, and people have to go to dinosaur place, and car gets wrecked.
Yeah, but do you know what else seems to be more entertaining than Fallen Kingdom apart from Battle at Big Rock? It's the TV series that we didn't watch in particular for this episode, but I checked out a couple of the first episodes, and it's the main target audience here is for children, but it's like animated TV series called Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, and there's at least one season out, and there, I found that it was really fun and simple but well written. And there's an untitled live action series also on the way in some future. I
Okay.
don't. Yeah.
On my end, I was browsing Netflix, and I found out that there's a Lego
Yeah,
person.
there's also that.
In Indominus Escape, I found that and I immediately skipped it and did not watch it.
Yeah, I really don't understand this Lego fascination. Of course, it's only for kids, but there's like at least 2 series with Legos. Lego dinosaurs. If that's your thing, go there.
But speaking of going to places, should we go to the end of today's quibble?
I suppose we have tackled quite a lot of subjects here. We did tackle blacks. We didn't go to feminism and sexism, but
Yeah, you are welcome, audiences.
at least I named those here too. Special mention for an actor. Would you raise anyone as a special mention actor in this episode?
Guess that goes to I don't know, Bryce Dallas Howard. Really strong.
No! No! I'm quitting this podcast. No, what? What? Did she tickle your fancy? Be
No,
honest now.
I don't know. I like, you know, man. You know, trying to do quickies here today. That's been me paying really close eye to minor details for 4 films, trying to compare acting here to acting there, line here, favorite something something something, and that's just too much work for me. So I didn't do them. I'm checking out IMDb. Bryce Dallas Howard was the first one that came up. You know, there.
Uh, that's a crime against the dinosaurs. Last time I named Jeff Goldblum, and now I'll just might as well name Lord Attenborough, who is maybe the next most important character in the franchise. Sweet grandpa up to no good. Well, is there anything that resonated with you the most in the franchise? Any memorable experiences?
No,
No.
no, no. There are things that I liked in the individual films, but nothing that I would say that had a huge emotional impact with me. Like there's moments that I feel were really nice. I liked in Jurassic World when Jurassic Park 2 when the T-Rexes push the trailer down the cliff, and I like Fallen Kingdoms, Dino Crisis Mansion, but nothing really tickles any bone in me.
If I can talk about the first one, of course, it would be the Brachiosaurus moment. That's a big moment, and T-Rex getting out of the cage and all that. And technically, Lost World is the best sequel out of these sequels, even with all of its faults. And there, I particularly enjoy that trailer dropping down the cliff slowly, even though there's some silliness involved. For example, the fact that it's not now more about the actual trailer car than it is about dinos. It's about trailer car survival. But there is that cool scene where Julianne Moore falls on the window and tries to get off the window before she falls to her death. There's some cool acrobatics when the 3 characters are able to hang on to that rope like they're kind of practically glued to it or something. And the fact that the 2 T-Rexes just they first come to the scene to throw a car, then they leave the scene, and without the baby, they come back, then they come to eat that one guy who did absolutely nothing wrong because chaos theory, then they leave again, and somehow the whole huge ass rescue group is there, but apparently they came into no contact whatsoever with the T-Rexes that just left. But yeah, that was the short answer, I guess. Well, I guess you don't have any adjectives for these films.
No. Film, movie, actiony, boring.
Uh,
Bryce Dallas Howard, lady acting.
Stop. Well, would you consider to watch any of these ever again?
No.
No?
I don't know. Maybe I check them someday. I don't know why.
Yeah, there is no real reason to go back to any of these, except maybe there are elements in The Lost World where I feel that the cinematography is really dark and the whole movie feels at least visually different to the first one. And I kind of like that. And the dino effects are still what they're supposed to be, in my opinion. Well, would you recommend The Lost World?
No,
No?
no. Fucking skip. Uh, but basically, so that we don't have to ask, you don't have to ask this individually, film for film. Um, my list is I wouldn't really recommend any of these. They are all garbage, skippable. Every single one of them. You can check this out if they come across like I don't know a streaming service. They these circulate these days, Netflix and Viaplays and God knows what. But if it's supposed to be one of those deals where I'm supposed to pay something like €4 or $6 to see any of these, just don't. None of these are worth it. Barely worth the time investment. My ranking of the films would be
Hmm.
Jurassic Park 3,
Whoa.
Jurassic Park 2, Fallen Kingdom, Jurassic World.
What?
From the films, Jurassic Park 2 is technically the best made. Surprise, surprise! It's Steven Spielberg. So, but even though it's technically it's very capable movie, still it most definitely is kind of a lackluster Spielberg feature, and
Yeah.
I just couldn't help it. I fucking fell asleep when watching it. I started to doze off when the tall grass raptor chase started.
Yeah.
I managed to struggle and stay awake enough that I remember enough individual moments, and then there is the moment when they ship the T-Rex to the main island, and the next thing I noticed, I woke up when the T-Rex had been recaptured and they were shipping it back.
And of course, being a professional, you push the rewind button, and hell, I missed all of these important scenes. Let's go
I
back here.
I, I had to do. I
Oh, you
had
did?
to just because of this podcast. But
True professional.
but it still doesn't change the fact that with Jurassic Park 2 I fell asleep. It was that good of a film. Jurassic Park 2 I fell asleep. Jurassic Park 3 is a goddamn mess.
Oh boy.
It had a bigger budget than the previous two films, but somehow it feels cheaper.
Yeah.
Like Jurassic Park 3 has this identity of a direct to video B movie where
And, uh,
where
and like you said originally in Jurassic Park episode, it's definitely a film that it seems to be very conscious about what it's doing, that it's going to be stupid.
yeah, and I actually, if that's what you're doing, I kind of respect it. Like
Mm.
I don't get with with over $90 million budget how that's the direction you went with. Why you feel so goddamn cheap, but that's what you
Mhm.
do. Maybe that's what you wanted to do, but I was at least I was entertained, and I like the theme of Alan Grant being the last of his kind, being the dinosaur man, being this kind of a disappointed, I don't want to talk about Jurassic Park type of dude. That was a nice theme, and I stayed awake. It's 90 minutes something. I stayed awake the entire feature. Jurassic World films. I learned from my mistake with Jurassic Park 2. I watched them in two parts. I took a break in middle point, so I stayed awake through these ones, they are absolute rubbish. But at least Fallen Kingdom has a Dino Crisis Mansion. Fucking Jurassic World 1 has fucking nothing, and I hated it. So skip all of these.
Ouch. I was way off with my presumptions.
Yeah,
But yeah. You mentioned the Jurassic Park 3 being fun. I think there's a bunch of technical difficulties with this
oh
film.
boy,
Like
oh, is there ever?
the weird dialogue moments, like, please give me the bag, it's not safe. Like please inspect my bag, Dr. Grant, because I need to I need to I need to redeem myself by doing a heroic deed and then almost dying for it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and the first drama there, like you are as bad as Hammer, you stole egg, and, or that obnoxious, that's really stupid. Like we somehow 3D printed the vocal cords of a Velociraptor, and now you can speak Raptor. And the stupid ass ending when the army lands on the island. And Ellie Sandberg made a phone call. Here is Navy SEALs or something shit like that.
and and this I miss fishing scene. Like, what is happening here? Well, I'll tell you what's happening here. They just survived the previous scene, was it with the pteranodons in their cage? And then they have to make the transition, they have to pause the film, kind of slow it down, calm it down for 2 minutes. So they have this half-assed scene of I miss fishing, which
Yep.
serves no narrative purpose in any way. It's completely pointless, and the only reason it's there is because of pacing. And after that, you get to the raptor scene, and then to the shore.
Yeah. But at least it had the kid who had read both Grant's and Malcolm's book.
Because that was important. Yeah.
That was
Yeah. When it comes to my picks, these go exactly in order. My favorite is Lost World, Jurassic Park out of the sequels. Then comes Jurassic Park 3, then Jurassic World, and Fallen Kingdom. And Jurassic Park, the Lost World, this is completely unnecessary and full of all kinds of sequel tropes and pacing's weak and so on, but it still has that Spielberg magic there, audiovisually. It's really on the border of to recommend to or not. It manages to have that identity that I was yammering on about. It holds the audience captivated by this mere design alone, but I don't know if that's enough. I do enjoy quite a lot that Dr. Malcolm is there to make fun of every single of those sequel tropes with his jokes. But it's a dumb film. It's always been a little bit of a tough one for me, but it's a bit of a sleepwalker, isn't it, Henrik?
it
Let's.
is it is like I as mentioned, I admit technically it's well made. Like Spielberg, even when he's lacking off, like he today these days he mostly is. He still like even on autopilot he can make technically okay film.
Yeah. Uh, I guess it's a very slight thumbs down, if I would be absolutely honest. Jurassic Park 3, it's more of the same, and the writing is my biggest gripe here. And the reasoning to inciting incident, the weak characters, deeply entrenched formulation, and that the plot doesn't carry the JP story in the universe anywhere in any way, except maybe those pteranodons, which it doesn't utilize. And no more of those close ups of animatronics, if anywhere. Jurassic Park 3, no recommendation. It's popcorn trash, and Joe Johnston knows it. Jurassic World, it's the idea of a now operational park. This is okay. I think it was a Spielberg idea originally. But the execution is another thing entirely. I can't stand the lead characters and how they've written them so flat. Effects are done to an excess, and if that injured Brachiosaurus there was the only animatronic they used when it dies, even that appears a little bit plasticky. Then there's the genetically modified nonsense source, so it's daunting. And like, how hard is it for the series to comprehend that it should just use more T-Rex? It's the main attraction, at least for me. It always was and always will be. I don't give a fuck what the Jurassic Park visitors care about. If they want more teeth or genetically modified dinosaurs, fine. Not my cup of tea. The mistreatment of T-Rex character is horrible. 10 years of development for this film, by the way, and still they release a weak film. It's sad. And I was officially done with the Jurassic Park or World, whatever, franchise after this film. It took me forever to get to Fallen Kingdom. No recommendation, no way in hell. Fallen Kingdom. It took 2 or 3 tries for me to finish this film originally.
Ouch.
Like I've wasted enough oxygen talking about this film already, but it's a soulless cash cow. This film is really lifeless. I looked for signs of life through every nook and cranny, but no recommendation whatsoever. But Battle at Big Rock, on the other hand, it's easily the best of the Jurassic World films. Simple setup, conflict payoff, no meaningless human cloning subplots. It's good job. Recommendation. What about you for Battle at Big Rock?
Skip. Yeah, you've already seen it. Nothing new here. Just move along.
No, nothing new to see there. It's pointless, but it's okay.
At least it's over in 8 minutes.
But you know, even with all this nonsense today, well, it can't be in any way underestimated what Jurassic Park did. The original, it captured the imagination. As you said, it changed the world for kids out there. Well, we haven't brought dinos to real life, at least yet. But Steven Spielberg did bring dinosaurs to life on screen. And it's the first time, I believe, when we see how they might look, how they might sound, move in herds. They do move in herds. And all their thinking and adapting in the environment, interacting. By God, 1993, Henrik. They spared no expense there.
Yeah, and then years later you find out that they were more close to birds than lizards. So, that's not how dinos would have looked.
Well, actually, that's what
feathers and shit.
Yeah, but Dr. Grant makes the point in the film that they were closer to birds, and everybody else is opposing his opinion. But yeah, it was a little bit disappointing for me when I noticed that okay, maybe the dino design for many of the dinos would be more feathery, for example, the Velociraptors, and I didn't really care for it. I think the movie makes them look more badass.
Uh-huh. But you can because this is the enlightened modern times. You can always say that science is wrong, you know better, and Earth is flat. So
yeah, storm the Capitol and wow.
that was more entertaining than any of the Jurassic Park sequels.
Too lifelike, 1 out of 5 clown heads. And everybody knows this already, but Spielberg really has an monster talent as a storyteller, even when he's not at his best. I don't love all of his films in any way, but this film, Jurassic Park original, it's also part of my childhood. It was transformative in a way. And so was Indiana Jones, or E.T., or even AI, for God's sakes. I liked AI. Of course, Jurassic Park is not like flawless, but it sure as hell captivates your imagination. It takes you to a roller coaster ride. into that movie magic place, the reason why we love movies. And I think it's gonna live on in the cinema history forever. Because Steven Spielberg, you did it. You crazy son of a bitch, you did it. Do we have anything? You really know you're watching the Jurassic Park sequels. When?
I don't know. I fell asleep. I don't know what happens when you watch Jurassic Park sequels.
When you see the same story over and over again.
God bless you, you diseased franchise. Maybe go back 65 million years and find new plots. How about that?
You know, that's exactly almost what I wrote in my Letterboxd review of Fallen Kingdom. I think they should take 65 million years of development before they make the new one. But I'm afraid Dominion is going to come out next year.
or then not, because Trevorrow does not want to finish the film because he knows that it would just go straight to Netflix because cinemas won't be opening.
Well, it's been a pleasure dissecting the Jurassic Park sequels with you, Henrik. And any thoughts before we head to the outro?
Just head to the outro. Sorry it took so long for us to, cover the sequels. You one listener who asked for the entire franchise. Here's the episode, and I guess if you ever really listen to this jarring to its end, we can all agree why it actually took us such a long time to go through the rest of the films.
Yeah, well, 5 films and whatnot in the episodes, so it takes a while.
It takes a while, especially when you are dealing with this franchise
and this podcast
and these assholes.
Well, in the next episode, if you don't mind, I'm not particularly excited to watch Hellraiser right off the bat, but
yeah, surprise. seven fucking films with decreasing quality. How come you are not enthusiastic about the opportunity?
But in the next episode, I was thinking, since as an international podcast, I think we have to watch other stuff than Steven Spielberg blockbusters. Would you like to go to China with me for the first time in this podcast history?
Well, 3 years in the making. I guess it's about time.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. What are we gonna watch? Bad documentaries.
Well, I had this plot here that we could watch the movies of Hubo, because there aren't too many of them anyway, and it would be a kind of a nice breather already in the beginning here. It consists of 2 short films, and then there is this one full feature-length film, which is 4 hours. But bear with me, I believe there will be a lot of topics that would be interesting to dive into, such as the meaning of life, going on with the life themes, or the value of life. Everything life.
It always finds a way. Why not?
And whether life is worth living, actually.
Well, that's easy to answer. No. No, it ain't.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us. And see you in a fortnight. Not next week anymore. This is gonna be 1 episode per 2 weeks, so. And we would like to invite you to continue this conversation with us online about the Jurassic Park sequels or whatever is on your mind on our socialistic media pages, and unless we get banned from these platforms as certain other person, but we'll hope you'll also leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. See you next time.
Until then.
That's quite not right how the lizards are eating the people in this household.